Good morning. We'll go ahead and get started here. It's 9 o'clock. Welcome to this meeting of the Oklahoma Aerospace and Aeronautics Commission, December 10th, 2025. The meeting notice was posted according to the requirements of the Open Meeting Act. The meeting will come to order. Call the roll, please.
Congressional District Commissioner, Secretary Seth Phillips.
Here.
Second Congressional District Commissioner, Vice Chairman Kevin Potter.
Here.
Third Congressional District Commissioner, Charles Ortega. Fourth Congressional District Commissioner, Lindy Ritz.
Here.
Fifth Congressional District Commissioner, Chairman Blake Rainey.
Here.
At-large Commissioner Jim Putnam.
Here.
At-large Commissioner Jerry Hunter.
Here.
House Appointed Commissioner Craig Campbell.
Here.
Senate Appointed Commissioner Bailey Siegfried.
Here.
We have a quorum. The draft of the minutes of October 8, 2025 Commission meeting has been sent to you, and a copy is in your meeting packet. Are there any corrections to the minutes before we consider them for approval? If there are no corrections, I will accept motions to approve the minutes. Do we have a motion?
I so move.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Call the roll, please.
Commissioner Phillips.
Aye.
Commissioner Potter.
Aye.
Commissioner Ritz.
Aye.
Chairman Rainey.
Aye.
Commissioner Putnam.
Aye.
Commissioner Hunter.
Aye.
Commissioner Campbell.
Aye.
Commissioner Siegfried.
Abstain.
Motion passes. First up is item 4, introduction of new commissioner. I would like to recognize our new commissioner, Bailey Siegfried, who has been appointed by the Oklahoma State Senate. Bailey, welcome to the commission. We look forward to working with you.
Thank you. Honored to serve.
All right, next we have item 5, election of officers for 2026. I will accept nominations for chair, vice chair, and secretary for 2026.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I would like to nominate Commissioner Campbell as secretary, Commissioner Phillips as vice chair, and Commissioner Potter as chairman for the 2026 calendar year.
Very good. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I so move. Second.
Is there any discussion? Call the roll, please.
Commissioner Phillips.
Aye.
Commissioner Potter.
Aye.
Commissioner Ritz.
Aye.
Chairman Rainey.
Aye.
Commissioner Putnam.
Aye.
Commissioner Hunter.
Aye.
Commissioner Campbell.
Yes.
Commissioner Siegfried.
Aye.
Very good. Next up is item 6, legislative, congressional, and regulatory update. Director and Sandra, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, Commissioners. Be brief here on item 6. Last Friday, right, Sandra, was deadline?
There's a problem with the PowerPoint. I'm gonna go work that problem.
Oh, okay. Work the PowerPoint problem. So the deadline to request bills from House and Senate was last Friday. As we've mentioned to you and you approved our legislative agenda this year, it's going to be a little light. We're going to keep our heads down, focus on the merger with OSIDA and ODAA. A few cleanup items, the engineer tax credits fix that Representative Miller was running last year that did not make it through. We're going to work on that again this year. This is the second year of a legislative cycle, so bills that didn't make it through, that weren't actually voted down but just didn't receive a vote, are still alive, still can be heard in the committee wherever they were along the process come next session. Same deadlines apply if it made it out of the committee of the Chamber of Origin but wasn't heard on the floor. It can be heard back on the floor. Doesn't have to go back through the committee process. Same thing if it went through the committee and the floor, and then when it swapped to the opposite chamber, didn't get heard in committee. Again, when it gets time to do opposite committee work, can be heard in the opposite committee next year. You don't have to file a new bill. So I know there's a lot of bills out there that are still floating around, as Sandra will send you all a list of the relevant language as those become public in January when filing deadline arrives. But from a state legislative perspective, we're going to have a pretty minimal legislative agenda this year. I'm sure there will be bills that pop up that we haven't asked for, that will be asked to participate in, provide wisdom and counsel on, maybe some language on, And we'll certainly, of course, report to you about that here between now and our January meeting, which is kind of when this will get really going as people start having to start file language along the various language deadlines between now and Christmas and then right after the turn of the new year. On the federal government side, as we know, the government shutdown is no longer. We have an extension that moves us into January. What happens after that, we don't really know. There's three things that we have heard about or seen, and if you've been watching politics, you probably know about that. It's a full year CR. It's another short-term CR to give the chambers some more time to negotiate and work it out. That would probably be kicked to March, April time period. Or we can get a full budget. I think the full budget by the January deadline is probably the least chance of happening, followed by the full year CR, followed by the short-term CR to kick it to March and April probably being the most likely. So we'll see what happens there at the federal level. Of course, we all know if we keep doing short-term CRs, that impacts our FAA grant cycle. FAA can't load the checkbooks fully, and so therefore they can't issue those AIP grants until they have the full checkbooks from Congress. They're authorized, FAA reauthorization, they are authorized. However, it's a two-part process. You have to have the authorization and you have to have the appropriation to do a full grant program with the FAA AIP system. So at the end of the day, that's where we're at. And then, of course, Michelle is working through the rules process. I don't know, should be going public here sometime in the next couple of weeks. But those will go out for public comment, and then we will bring those back to you in their final form for your consideration of adoption at the January meeting, so we can start that process next legislative cycle. They've kept moving that forward. As you know, we sometimes get into the March timeframe or the April timeframe in years past, but the legislature keeps moving it further and further back on the timeline, and so that's why we have to go and approve those at the January meeting. So at that being said, I will certainly stand for any questions or comments you might have on the legislative, congressional, and regulatory item.
Do you anticipate any, well, it's a reach, I guess, but any other direct appropriations to ODAA from the Senate and House?
Check back with me in March on that question. You know, this month they'll have a first Board of Equalization meeting, which is what sets the budget, what the legislature can allocate in the appropriations process. And the final one will happen in January. Maybe it's January 1st to February, I can't remember the exact date. And that will set what they can appropriate. State revenues are decent. It's month to month, it's been a little bit of a roller coaster, a little up, a little down, a little up, a little down, but overall, it's been up by a couple percentage points, state revenue has. So I don't think it's as dire as last year at this point in time. Last year, I know we were looking at purely flat, maybe a little bit down. But in terms of direct appropriations, we probably won't know that until we get into the first initial conversations of budget, when that's the March timeframe, when they start having those conversations. So I should know more in March and definitely by April as to whether or not the legislature's thinking more direct appropriations. As we have requested, we're requesting a flat budget on the ODAA side of things. On the OSIDA side, we're requesting a few direct projects for a few items, priority items out at the spaceport. But ODA right now, we've requested a flat budget.
Thank you, Director Artis. Any additional comments?
That's good, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next item 7, airport construction grant program change order. Michelle.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. We are bringing the first several items before you to make you aware of changes needed throughout the life cycle of these various projects in which we use Director Arty's authority to move forward. So the first item, item A, was to construct a new box hangar at Frederick Regional Airport. The change order was necessary due to the addition of a restroom and to reconcile final quantities. The estimated additional cost was $12,387 and was funded with $6,813 of federal grant funds, $7,955 of state grant funds, and almost $619 of sponsor matching funds. For item B, that was the design of the terminal and hangar at South Grand Lake Regional Airport. There was a change order needed due to the requirement of a state fire marshal life safety plan review. That estimated additional cost was $2,958 and was funded with prep funds for that. Item C was to construct a new terminal building and the associated parking lot at West Woodward. The change order there was necessary to relocate the AWAS to the new terminal building. We also allowed for Cat 6 cable drops, incorporated a control board, and added venting for the IT closet. The amendment allowed for line item adjustments due to underruns elsewhere. So we moved funding from testing and grant admin to cover the additional work, so there was no additional cost on the state side. Item D, also at West Woodward, was to construct a new large box hangar and associated parking lot. The change order was necessary due to the water meter relocation and additional linear feet needed to reach the new location, the connection of an oil water separator, and to improve drainage conditions. The amendment, again on this project, allowed for line item adjustment due to underruns elsewhere. So we moved funding from testing and grant admin here to cover the additional work, and no additional cost was needed on the state side. Also, again, at West Woodward, we have a lot going on there. Utilities to support that new terminal and hangar. They had a change order necessary. We talked about this before. It was to reconcile the final cost that was I brought you a change order before, but they had the numbers off a little bit. So that change order was for the utility provider to bring service to the new south development area of the airport and tap into the water line. The additional cost was $2,881 and is using prep funds for that. So that will finalize that project. So those 5 are just to make you aware. Finally, item F, staff is asking or seeking approval for an amendment as part of the department's acting as agent role for OSIDA and supporting their infrastructure investment. This is for phase 2 of the pavement rehab at Clinton Sherman. The change order is necessary due to additional concrete work on runway 17R35L. The estimated additional cost is $470,000 and will be funded with OSIDA prep funds. So I will stand for any questions, but staff is seeking approval on item F.
Could you go over the amount that we're kicking in on item A?
On the what now?
Item A. What you read was different than what was on the slide. I wonder, trying to figure out which one is which.
I believe their slides are messed up. Item A is
Oh.
for Frederick Regional Airport.
Right.
If you'll refer to the actual agenda, I can give you my copy.
No, I don't want your copy. That's okay.
So that's
All right, thank you.
right
Yeah, it was like 7,000 versus 4,900.
there. I do apologize for that. That is a
Okay.
PowerPoint
Okay,
glitch.
that's good then. Thank you.
So item A is Frederick, $12,387. Our share $7,955.49. And that is under the $10,000 threshold, so we did use Director Artie's authority to move forward with that, so the project wouldn't be held up.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Do we have a motion to approve item F?
Move approval.
We have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
if I could ask Michelle just to expound a little bit more about why the additional $470,000 for the airport. What is the concrete work change that was
I
necessary?
am probably going to have to refer to Director Artie.
Thank you for the question, Commissioner. So the contractor that's out there on the runway right now, this was a final phase of about a 4 or 5 phase project that's happened over the last decade. The military originally started in the middle of the runway in the touchdown zones was the first phase, then they moved into the more middle sections of the runway, but basically they were working on the keel. This is the final phase. It was to do the outer 50 feet on either side, so 300-foot runway. The 200-foot middle section was the keel, so this was doing the outer edges of the runway. What we came to find out was there was a few areas of pavement in the keel section that needed to be repaired. And so it had been 7, 8, 9 years since those first projects had happened. And so while the runway shut down, we decided it was probably in the best interest to go ahead and do that work right now, as opposed to having to wait another 3 or 4 years, go do it again. This way we can hopefully keep that runway shut down. Maybe we can stretch it to 7, 8, maybe 10 years if we're lucky, to not have to do another runway project out there. So this additional work was primarily for hitting some of those keel section areas. We also made some swaps. There was a very, when they bid out the project, it was bid out high in spall repair, bless you, and low in panel replacement. And as it came out to being when they started doing some of those spall repairs and started digging in with the jackhammer, that actually some of those spalls went past the point where you'd have to be able to do a spall and you have to transition to a full panel, or not a full panel, but a quarter panel or a third panel or a half panel replacement. And so obviously a panel replacement is more expensive than a spall repair, and that was another item for why this cost increase.
I thank you for that explanation. I think we were out there about a month and a half ago or so, and you gave us a tour of the runway. And so some of those problems, they were very obvious, and so I'm very glad that you're moving forward quickly to do it early instead of waiting to have to do it later on and cause more disruption at the airport. Good call.
Is there any further discussion? Call the roll, please.
Commissioner Phillips?
Aye.
Commissioner Potter?
Aye.
Commissioner Ritz?
Aye.
Chairman Rainey?
Aye.
Commissioner Putnam?
Aye.
Commissioner Hunter?
Aye.
Commissioner Campbell?
All right.
Commissioner Siegfried?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle. Next up is item 8, 5-year airport construction program. Nick, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, Commissioners. For this first item on item 8, this is seeking to add 5 projects to the existing version of our airport construction program. As most of you know, the fall is about the time that I'm reviewing all of the 5-year capital improvement programs and plans from all of our airports across the state. And in doing so, what we're looking at is what are some of the things that we can partner with to both minimize the state and the sponsor share and utilize some of the extra entitlement funds, particularly with the AIG funds over the past several years, to make sure that those don't expire and go into our airport system. And so in doing those reviews this year, it was very clear to us that there were several hangar projects as well as one project that was recently appropriated for some funding by the legislature that we also wanted to add for the Durant's Tower. So I'll go through these, and obviously any questions that you have, I'd be happy to answer any of those. The first project we're seeking to add to the airport construction program is 3 interconnected 50 by 50 box hangars there at Cherokee Municipal. I anticipate it to be about a $1.5 million overall project cost, partnering with some FAA fundings and our state funding being at the 40% level as part of the hangar grant program, as all of the hangar projects are being suggested as in this presentation today. The second is CE Page, 4 50 by 50s at CE Page. I anticipated between about $1.5 to $2 million, depending on how that one shakes out. We've had some varying recent bid openings for those, but usually it's hovering around that range for that particular type of construction. At Durant Regional, this is the project for the construction of the air traffic control tower that we are seeking to put in 2029 timeframe. This was recently appropriated some funding for by the legislature for $3 million for the initial phases of that. You'll see a request for the siting study coming up as well. But this is to go ahead and show that project in our airport construction program as we're working on a long-term funding plan for that. That will be a mixture of the appropriations from the state. We anticipate some congressionally designated spending from the feds as well as we pursue that. But as some of you may know, the airspace down there at Durant has become very congested, and they've been concerned about some safety items that they're training down there, and some of the things that they've seen over the past year, especially just wanting to make sure that they get ahead of that and working with the FAA to try to get them a control tower to separate that traffic and allow them to maximize their training out there. So Southeastern has also been a huge partner in trying to get that to come to fruition as well. At El Reno Regional Airport, we're seeking to construct 10-unit interconnected box hangars out there. That's basically one big building that has 4 66 by 60 box hangars, as well as 6 44 by 40 box hangars. So that's just kind of to maximize the diversity that they have out there and make sure that they have enough hangar storage space as we continue to expand and do some additional work out there as we have the past couple of years. And then at Holdenville Municipal, looking to construct 3 50 by 50 box hangars, again at about the $1.5 million mark. Again, wanting to maximize their additional entitlements and make sure that we can get some hangar storage space, because with some of these smaller ones, trying to keep them at the 10-based aircraft level to be classified in the national airport system is a huge goal, so that we can continue to be able to get those federal funds to support our airport system. Staff recommends approval of inclusion of these 5 projects, and I ask Stan for any questions you may have.
Do we have a motion to approve item 8?
Second.
Got a second. Is there any discussion? Call the roll, please.
Commissioner Phillips,
Aye.
Commissioner Potter,
Aye.
Commissioner Ritz,
Aye.
Chairman Rainey,
Aye.
Commissioner Putnam,
Aye.
Commissioner Hunter,
Aye.
Commissioner Campbell,
Aye.
Commissioner Siegfried.
Aye.
Motion passes. On to item 9, Airport Construction Grant Program. Nick, please continue.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So this is seeking approval of a few grants as well as some design costs for some of these projects that are coming up. The first one being the crack seal and seal coat at Anadarko Municipal Airport. This is, again, just kind of the normal routine maintenance for their airport and keeping them afloat. And then we'll obviously be working with the city over the next several years to determine the long-term plan, since that one is not currently in the NIPIAS, it is state-funded only. And so we will be working with the city to determine their long-term plans, because obviously we want to make sure that what we're doing out there is sustainable and it supports the overall state system. So as they've had some change in leadership out there, that's one of the things on my list this year, to make sure that I connect with them and we determine long-term goals and what works both for us at the state and them at the city, so that we can work to figure out the long-term plans for that airport. The second project would be approving the design costs for the CE Page hangars. Again, this is for the 4 interconnected box hangars, and I do believe we have a visual for this one. It kind of shows what they're looking to pursue out there. Total cost of the design phase of that is $113,000. And then, so the department share would be the 40% at $45,211 on that design. At Durant Regional, this is for the siting study I alluded to for the air traffic control tower at Durant. And so this is going to be the preliminary siting study working with FAA. They do a full construction in a virtual realm to get the site picture and all those types of things, to make sure that they locate it in the right spot and get the right line of sight for their particular airport. Total cost of that is anticipated to be $257,522 and some change. And again, that will be funded by the state appropriated legislative direct state grant funds, contingent upon a grant application for that one. At Guthrie Edmond Regional Airport, we are looking at acquiring some land out there. As for those of you that might be familiar, the southwest portion of the aeronautical use, as you can see there, is several different lots that they've been trying to acquire over the years, so that we can expand and do some additional aeronautical development to the southwest portion of that airport. And so as they've been working with the FAA and the airport appraiser, finally come up with the appraised value of that land out there at $1.6 million. They're looking to pursue that land acquisition with $740,000 of FAA funds. We're seeking $791,856 of state grant funds, and the sponsors match at $80,624 for that particular project. I don't know if the folks from Guthrie have made it out, but if not, I know that their representative from Park Hill is here as well. So Toby?
Good morning, Commissioners. Caden Young, the airport director from Guthrie, had a meeting with Senator Mullins' office this morning that ran long, so he asked if I would speak on the airport's behalf. They certainly are very appreciative of the Commission's support of this project. This will allow for some fairly significant aeronautical development on the southwest portion of the airport. That is something that has been on the airport layout drawing for close to 20 years, that the city is trying to acquire, and finally have some adjacent landowners that are willing to go through with that sale, and we're able to get the appraisals and move it forward. So we thank you for the Commission's support.
How many acres?
35 between 2 different parcels.
35 acres?
Yes, sir. One of them appraised for a little over $50,000 an acre, and the other one appraised for a little over 37.
Wow.
Yes, sir.
Who's the landowner?
One is a gentleman by the name of Mr. Cogburn, and then the other one is a husband and wife. Their last name is Martin.
Not political officials related to Guthrie?
No, sir. No, sir. Not at all.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
And to that same point, Commissioner, because I was awfully curious myself, there are currently lots nearby going for $80,000 to $100,000 an acre. So, again, thank you for that. And one point of note on item A real quick. I realized that I didn't see my friend back there from KSA representing Anadarko. So do you want to say anything, D'Angelo? I just wanted to make sure that I pointed you out because I didn't see you back there initially. So on behalf of the city of Anadarko, D'Angelo from KSA, their engineering firm, is sitting back there in the dark, and I missed him whenever I came up, so please.
D'Angelo Reyes, KSA Engineers. I just want to speak on behalf of Anadarko and their new leadership, new city manager over there. They're appreciative of your effort and the funds to improve the airport. I think they're looking to make an effort to sustain that airport, and so we're glad to help. Team up with ODAA and the city of Anadarko. Thank you.
Thanks, D'Angelo. My apologies. At Hollis Municipal Airport, we are seeking the approval of some design costs for that runway rehabilitation project. That'll be a crack seal coat, very similar to what we're doing out there at Anadarko. Total design phase of that anticipated $48,300 at a 95.5 proposition state grant. At Stillwater Regional Airport, we are seeking a state grant for the construction of their parking lot for the new terminal building. For those of you that are familiar, originally the terminal building project was supposed to be a remodel and expansion. There were some structural engineers that thought better of that particular plan and said maybe we need to pivot. And that is how we wound up pursuing the FAA funded and partnering with the FAA funds to build the brand new terminal facility out there. As some of those initial costs obviously grew exponentially for all parties, including the city, one of the things that we had been in discussion with them as we added it to the ACP this past year was that parking lot. And so that way we can work to trying to schedule this in a way that they have functional parking as that terminal building opens, because the last thing we want is, you know, you have a big mud pit out there where you're trying to park whenever you don't have enough parking, and then running and staining up your new terminal building. But to provide that new front door, seeking $680,508 total of a state grant for that project. And I know that Kelly and Serge are here from Stillwater, so Kelly, please feel free.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. Thank you so much for your consideration of this project today. As mentioned, our terminal project is coming along very well. We're about 75% complete on that 31,000 square foot new terminal. As you can see in the picture, we have two proposed parking lots. The North Triangle parking lot is the one that we're seeking very generous ODAA support of this project. It's a very transformational project for the airport. We are one of 4 commercial service airports in the state and the only to not charge for any parking whatsoever. So we've provided free parking since the inception of air service 9 years ago. We know that commercial revenue parking for airports is the most lucrative non-aeronautical revenue source for airports, and we're very, very excited about the transformational opportunity to incorporate revenue parking to help our operations and maintenance budget. Currently, the city of Stillwater heavily supports the airport and our ability to operate year over year, and we're confident that moving to revenue parking will help us overall in that project. So we'll be taking a very small 43 parking spot lot, transforming it into the lot you see proposed, which has 68 spots, supports ADA parking for the new terminal, and just majorly improves pedestrian access to the terminal.
And then just one other point of note on there, and that's in the next phase of the parking plan is to pursue some FAA funding for that additional area that you saw next to that, for that initial triangle area. And as those of you who know, any FAA funds have to be utilized for non-revenue parking. And so there will still be some free parking that they are seeking in the future, but wanting to make sure, again, that we're trying to make our airports as sustainable as possible, especially as Stillwater is growing at the pace that they are with their new facility, and hopefully to maintain the momentum and continue to grow out there in Stillwater. And the last project that I'm seeking approval for their design grant. This is at Watonga Regional Airport. As we spoke in pretty good length this past year about the development on the east side where things exist currently. It's too close to that state highway, so really we're running up against building restriction lines and been really constrained in that side. So the city has closed the golf course there on the west side, and they put that back to aeronautical use. And so this will be using some of the state appropriated funds to design out the new terminal building, supporting utilities and the access road. The design grant's anticipated to be $255,600 for this particular one. And again, this is to open up that development on the west side. And both myself and, of course, Park Hill and Watonga are here to answer any questions, but this is just for that initial design phase as we seek to build that out on the west. Again, that's 100% appropriated funding for that one. Staff recommends approval for these projects, and I stand for any questions.
we have motion to approve item 9? Motion, do I have a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? Call the roll, please.
Commissioner Phillips?
Aye.
Commissioner Potter?
Aye.
Commissioner Ritz?
Aye.
Chairman Rainey?
Aye.
Commissioner Putnam?
Aye.
Commissioner Hunter?
Aye.
Commissioner Campbell? Commissioner Siegfried?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Thank you. On to item 10, Progressing Rural Economic Prosperity Prep Fund. Director, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So, as I do every month, I give you a little bit of snippet of information on our prep projects, prep mega projects, the 4 that ODA says grace over. We'll start with Ardmore. After our last commission meeting, the day after our last commission meeting, we were down in Ardmore for the dedication of Taxiway Echo. That's one of 3 projects that they are doing as part of their air cargo development for their prep funds. The Taxiway Echo, this is the south third of the parallel to the primary runway. The next project, we just had a kickoff pre-con for, or not the next project, the second project, which is currently ongoing, is the cargo development in the cargo apron area. So that's ongoing right now, under construction. And the third and final item just kicked off with their pre-con, and that is Grumman Road, and the road that runs along the south boundary of the airport to improve for and prep for the cargo area. The road is just an asphalt road, not really conducive to truck traffic, and so they are upgrading that to handle regular 18-wheel cargo deliveries, and then obviously the parking lot that is going to support the intermodal cargo area that'll be offloading and onloading cargo into aircraft. So Ardmore is moving forward. We'll probably have a final ceremony to complete that project sometime in 2026, probably later half of 2026. Tulsa Tower, hopefully they will get to their tallest point sometime in the first quarter of next year. So they'll have their topping out of that tower. They're very excited about that because the crane costs about almost 6 figures a month to have out there. So they'll be able to get rid of the crane very soon. And then, of course, construction should be done later in 2026. But then, of course, they have to turn it over to the FAA. The FAA's got to install the equipment in it, so that probably will take another 6 months. So the tower probably won't be operating until sometime in 2027, but construction will be done sometime next year. You heard Michelle with the change orders on the Woodward project. We're getting very close to completion of the first phase of projects. That's the terminal building and parking lot, the large hangar and office space, the taxiway and access road into that new development area, as well as the utilities to support all of the above. We'll probably have a ceremony, watch for a save the date, sometime in January. I know it's not the best time to do a celebration, but we will have a new terminal building and a new nice heated hangar that we can have that celebration in. So sometime in January, we're looking at celebrating that project. And then the next phase, the runway extension and the runway rehab and the taxiway extension, that project is ongoing right now and should be complete sometime in the latter half of next year. And then last, but certainly not least, you'll see on Friday, if you're coming to Women in Aviation Day, the AAR hangar and the progress it's making. It's not fully complete yet. It is still a work in progress, as Sandra has come to learn about contractors more than she probably ever wanted to as a part of this process. The doors are or are not? We're kind of there. Okay, well, hey, that's progress. We still got 2 days to go. But anyway, we're very excited to see that hangar with the Women in Aviation Day celebration. It'd be the only time we got to do this, because once they turn it over to AAR and it's a full functional MRO facility, AAR doesn't want to give it up for 3 or 4 full days for us to set up and take down, and that's 3 to 4 days they're not actually having MRO revenue profit activities taking place. So this was a one-time shot in the dark opportunity, and we're going to take it, and it's going to be beautiful, it's going to be amazing, and we're going to see that on Friday. But that should be, we'll have a completion dedication ceremony January 28th, I think? Yeah, January 28th is going to be the dedication of that particular hangar facility. We'll have John Holmes, our CEO, in town It's going to be a great show. So anyway, that is the prep for mega projects and, of course, all of the hangar projects that have been going on with the $14 million across the state of Oklahoma. A lot of the projects that were just added in the ACP were kind of the final round of some of those prep hangar projects. And we are still working on the commercial air service, the $4 million of commercial air service money that was given to us as part of the prep program. You saw Oklahoma City started their international service on November 9th or 10th, I think, to Cancun, weekly service. And then, so that was using some of our money. And then, of course, you saw Tulsa have some announcements related to Seattle, San Diego, and Cancun as well. And that's using some of that commercial air service money. So there is your prep funds update, and certainly looking forward to seeing you at some dedications and some celebrations in 2026.
Thank you, Director.
Thank you.
Next order of business is item 11, Clinton Sherman contract. Nick.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. For this item, we are seeking to enter into a contract for the design of the hangar for Dawn Aerospace. So as we look to take receipt of the space plane in Q2 of 2027, so now we need to build a place to put it. So this will be a 100 by 100 hangar that will include some office space, so a little bit of a meeting area, but obviously the control room for the operations, a viewing area so that you can do some training and viewing of the operations in the control room, as well as a payload processing facility for that. But in addition to that, there are 2 other small aprons that need to be constructed as well. One will be a fuel apron, which is pretty straightforward, and then the oxidizer apron, because this has a 2-stage fuel to it. You have the fuel, then you add the oxidizer for the propellant there for the Mark IIB Aurora space plane. And so this is for the full build out of all of those, making sure that we design the fuel storage area to the right specs, since that'll be relatively new for us out there at the spaceports, and making sure that we get everything up to snuff by the time they're ready to deliver the space plane. So the design of this project via Garver and Guernsey looked to be about $490,900 to be funded by the PREP OSIDA funds, OSIDA PREP funds. I stand for any questions. Staff recommends approval.
Do we have a motion to approve item 11?
Make a motion to approve.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, if I could.
Yes.
I know Nick is on the OSIDA board meeting. You're going to have a little discussion about the Dawn visit. But I think it would be nice if we share some of that for this appropriation, because as I understand it, and I may be wrong, but I think that Commerce has already been committed to doing work with Dawn that's had some financial investments leading us towards a real project here over the next couple of years.
Director, if I may defer to you,
Certainly. So the Dawn Aerospace proposal, we had this discussion from the legislature several weeks ago when Dawn was in town. The Dawn Aerospace proposal is coming to the state of Oklahoma via the new product development incentive. So the state of Oklahoma, Department of Commerce, Oklahoma Development Finance Authority has a multitude of incentives to attract companies, attract programs to the state of Oklahoma. New product development incentive takes withholding taxes, income taxes from various entities that would benefit from a project and can withhold those and then grant it out for that particular project. Some of it's, one of the programs provides infrastructure for communities and industrial parks to support the recruitment of businesses. This one, being the new product development incentive, is about new product development, as the name would infer. And so the element here is that the state of Oklahoma is acquiring the space plane itself. So it's not that we are having Dawn come operate on their own and we are paying Dawn to operate. We are paying Dawn for the state to own this space plane. And yes, as a part of that, the first year Dawn's going to operate it. In years 2, 3, 4, and 5, there's multiple options that we can do, as we've talked about in the past, whether that's we take over ownership and operate it, whether we continue to enter into a partnership with Dawn where they operate it, or maybe there's a third party that decides to operate it. But at the end of the day, it's the state's responsibility, because we own this space plane, to house it, to have the ops center. It's Dawn's responsibility to provide the staff, the team, and the activities that will take place in this shell. And so we're basically building out the shell and they will then populate the shell with the team and the equipment and the fuel and everything else that's going to be necessary to do that. So what you have here before you today is the design funds to go do this. This is one of those projects, Commissioner Putnam, that we talked about where OSIDA has an ask of the legislature for the construction of this facility next legislative cycle. So here we are with the design funds. The reason why we're doing that today is if you think about the continuum of design and construction and everything else that goes on, in order for us to be ready in Q2 of 2027, we're already squeezed very, very closely to not being able to do this and have a facility ready by 2027. So that's why we're starting off design today instead of waiting until next spring or next summer. Design's going to take probably 6 to 8 months. We'll start construction next summer. Hangar and everything probably is a 7 to 10 month build. You do the math, you're right there at Q2 of 2027 before we have a completed facility. So that's, Commissioner Campbell, a little bit of the background history of where we're at, but essentially a state incentive is paying for the acquisition, the economic development project to bring that space plane and the operation of that space plane here. We hope, and as does Dawn, that this ends up being a very profitable venture for the state of Oklahoma and for Dawn Aerospace, and I think we all have expectations for that. We wouldn't have entered into the deal if this was just going to be a show. This was going to be a profitable venture and a profit center for the state of Oklahoma, as well as for Dawn, and a benefit for our universities and our research institutions to be able to take advantage of a technology like this. So at the end of the day, now that this has been turned over to the operations side, as Commissioner Siegfried and I were talking about yesterday, the operator in me is like, we've got to get this started, because what we don't want to have happen is a $17 million airplane sitting out on the ramp come April of storm season of 2027.
Thank you, Director. And I asked for that because this is really critical. I mean, we've been looking at that spaceport for a long time for what's going to happen out there. We had the dedication of the hangar a couple months ago. Terrific event. It's really going to bring some life back to that area. But this adds the space component that is really unique. It's a unique mission. I heartily support it. I was part of those briefings, and I just wanted to make sure the audience and anybody that's watching this or hears this later on understands the importance of this to Oklahoma. This is a critical step, and I'm glad we're taking it. Thank you.
Very good. Any further discussion? Call the roll, please.
Commissioner Phillips?
Aye.
Commissioner Potter?
Aye.
Commissioner Ritz?
Aye.
Chairman Rainey?
Aye.
Commissioner Putnam?
Aye.
Commissioner Hunter?
Aye.
Commissioner Campbell?
All right.
Commissioner Siegfried?
Motion passes. Next is item 12, contract amendment with Vigilant Aerospace Systems. Director, you're recognized.
I've got to come up with a better acronym than plane, trains, and automobiles, but there's 3 really exciting parts to the spaceport. We've got the traditional aviation side, MRO, flight testing, flight ops, military aviation, that sort of thing. We've got the space side, which we just talked about in Dawn and some of the other companies that are going to be doing business out there. And of course, we've got the drone side, the unmanned aircraft system side. And so what you have before you today is a project that you guys have approved to put in radar installation, not just at the spaceport, but also out and around western Oklahoma to help our beyond visual line of sight flight testing operations. Particularly, again, our first operator, we hope, will be Kratos. And then once that is up and running, we have the proof of concept done. We expect to be able to start selling that as a flight test operations for the entire country. We hear from our contractor, we hear from industry members that government ranges are full. They don't like government ranges because they might be waiting 18 months and then they get to week 2 and their slot and they're ready to go, but the government has to take it, and when the government takes it, they get to take it, and they don't just simply push back to week 3, they get pushed back to the end of the line. And so we would offer a commercial range that would be able to do something very similar to the government ranges can do, but we would be able to do that without having to worry about the government interfering with some of the flight testing ranges. And so as a part of that, we have a change order to put on some new electrical components for our radar trailers that were being delivered in phase 2. So the phase 1 cost for the one trailer that doesn't have the electrical upgrade already will be $13,500, and then the additional cost for the remaining trailers that are still in the manufacturing process will be about $53,600 for a total cost of $67,100. We figure it's easier for the manufacturer to do the electrical work and electrical upgrades to make it operational as opposed to having to wait until we get it to the field, which is what we had to do with the first 2 radar systems that we had gotten in phase 1. When we did that, went and did them in the field with an electrician that was there. It worked. Not saying it didn't, but at the end of the day, it's just easier if the trailers arrive fully functional and fully equipped with the latest and greatest electrical panels. Staff recommends approval, and I'll certainly stand for any questions that you guys might have.
Do we have a motion to approve item 12?
Second.
Motion is second. Is there any discussion? Call roll, please.
Commissioner Phillips?
Aye.
Commissioner Potter?
Aye.
Commissioner Ritz?
Aye.
Chairman Rainey?
Aye.
Commissioner Putnam?
Aye.
Commissioner Hunter?
Aye.
Commissioner Campbell?
Aye.
Commissioner Siegfried?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Director. On to item 13, Aerospace and Aviation Education Program Update. Paula, you're recognized.
Thank you. Good morning, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. As always, I'm happy to be here to share our work that we've done since last we met. First of all, Stephanie had the opportunity to go on October 10th to Sallisaw for the River Valley Workforce Development Summit, and basically that was a group of chamber leaders, community leaders, colleges, high schools, talking about Eastern Oklahoma and partnerships that could be developed to promote workforce development. So that was a positive day, kind of an initial day of brainstorming. Secondly, I'm really happy to talk about our Fly Forward search and rescue event that took place at Stillwater at Lake Carl Blackwell in October. I personally thought this is one of the best events we've had since I began this journey 5.5 years ago. We brought together 35 high schools and worked with OAAR and Oklahoma State University, with Stillwater Medical, EMS services, command. It was wonderful. Each school got a place to park their vehicle with electric outlets so that they could charge their drones. But each team was asked to fly 3 drone missions. One was a downed hiker, one was a snake bite victim, one was an overturned kayaker. And so they throughout the course of the day, they flew those missions and were timed. And then, of course, the team that had the smallest time to complete those missions was the overall state champion of the search and rescue event. It was a small school, Wilson, Oklahoma, down by Ardmore. And, you know, they were excited. I told everybody it was kind of like Hoosiers because they beat all the big schools. And they were thrilled to death and had practiced and worked and tried to get ready. We are so appreciative of our friends at Oklahoma State University and OAAR for helping us pull this off. And we had a lot of visitors that watched the students in action, and it was a good day. Our next event will be held this winter, and we actually had phase 1 this past week. Oh, there are the drone dudes, yeah, at Oklahoma State. So, they had a day where they set up high school tents, and before they went to fly their drones, and had played cornhole and had a fun day, and then took time and flew, and then we provided trophies at the end of the day. Director Jamie Jacob and his team were there from 6:45 in the morning till 6:45 that night to help pull this off. But we are now in the midst of the Flight Simulation State Championship. This past Tuesday, 3,100 students in Oklahoma schools actually sat for a general aviation test over what the AOPA high school curriculum. It was a cool feeling for us to think across the state of Oklahoma that many students were taking an aviation test of what they learned. And one thing I will say is you got to remember, many of these schools are in semester 1 of 9th grade of AOPA. It's not like they've had all 4 years. But what will happen now is all those schools and kids that participated are eligible to come to regional simulation championship in Mustang and in Pryor in January and February. And there they will work as kind of like an academic bowl team, and they will do flight calculations and and answer questions as a team. The top 8 teams will then go to flight safety in Broken Arrow and to Tulsa Community College, where they will actually fly maneuvers on flight simulators. The people and the folks at flight safety have been remarkable. They've provided the question development. Their engineers are going to set up all of the simulators when the semifinals and finals come around. And then at the end of the day in February, we will crown a flight simulation champion. So I think already with over 3,000 students involved, that's a victory, and it's really exciting for us. Next, we, of course, are on our school visits. As always, we're looking toward next fall. What will it look like? And so what we're hoping is we continue to add schools. The visits we've had since we last saw you, we went to Choteau Mazie Public Schools over by Pryor. We went to Navajo High School, which is a tiny little school about a mile north of Altus Air Force Base. And they told us that 37% of their student body parents worked at Altus Air Force Base, and they were so excited to have them join the AOPA program and to start learning about aviation and aerospace. We went to Coleman High School, Valiant High School, Mosley High School in far eastern Oklahoma, and then yesterday we were at Deer Creek, Edmond, and the folks at Deer Creek are interested in expanding. They already teach year 1 and 2, but they want to continue up the pathway and provide more opportunities for their students. I had the opportunity on the evening of November 4th to go to Oklahoma State and visit with the Flying Aggies Women in Aviation chapter, so that was a great opportunity. On November 6th, I was in McAllister, and I think that former Director Byrd would be very proud of my evangelism here. I look like I'm, I don't know where that picture came from, but anyway, thank you for sharing that, Sandra. It was a joy for me to speak to McAllister and the Chamber and the folks to tell about our work and what we're doing. And that has actually opened up the next meeting. Well, first let me talk about the AOPA National Symposium in Indianapolis. We had 53 Oklahoma teachers in Indianapolis last month for the symposium. It was remarkable. I was asked to serve on a panel there and gladly did that to talk about our work, and have since talked to many other states who want to know. There we are with Frasca and being able to visit with these schools and share the work that we're doing.
Paula?
Uh-huh.
I have a question.
Surely.
You've had the honor, thanks to you, of leading the nation. Who's kind of giving us a run for our money? Where are some of the challenges?
Well, I think Texas, Florida, and Kentucky, they're not close yet, but they're the ones, they're the ones behind us. And that's when I was talking about that list of schools, new schools that we're visiting with. You know, I believe there are like 537 Oklahoma school districts, and we have 149 aviation high schools, so there's still plenty of work to do. Again, and you know how I feel, but to be able to go back to these very small rural schools who think they don't have the opportunity or the chance to do what some of the metro area schools have been able to do has been so rewarding for me, because some of them have turned out to be all in and really doing everything they can do to build these programs. But that meeting in McAllister led to a meeting at Eastern State with the president of Eastern State College in Wilburton. And they are actually working and wanted to work with us and wanted some advice to build an aviation management associate's degree that would lead, a 2-year degree, that would lead to Southeastern University's aviation management. So increase the ability and the numbers of people that can become or get a associate's degree in aviation management, then go get finish their 4-year degree at Southeastern. So we had a good visit there with Eastern. Stephanie and I had a chance to visit with the Secretary of Education of the Chickasaw Nation. Chickasaw Nation has a large number within their boundaries of high schools teaching AOPA. I wanted them to know that. that how many of the schools within the Chickasaw Nation are teaching aviation, and to know which schools they were and how they might be able to help those students as those schools move forward. Last week, we were at Durant, Southeastern University, and Durant High School will be hosting our Southern Oklahoma Student Aero Day on March 26th, so we met with them to iron out the logistics. That's all the students south of I-40 that are in the AOPA programs. We'll go to Durant on March 26th. They'll have a chance to go out to Southeastern Aviation, a chance to do some hands-on activities and hear a guest speaker. So once again, as always, we're excited about that. The last thing I want to end with is something you've been asking for that we really still don't have, and that is, it's hard to put this in words, but we don't have data yet for the most part of the program results because they started them in 8th and 9th grade. They're just now getting to the point where they can finish their private pilot, enroll at OU or OSU or Southeastern. We're just now getting those schools. Many of the 149 that I talk about all the time are still in 9th grade year 1. They're not going to have students taking their 107 or finishing their private pilot certification. So we're just now getting to some data. This past summer at teacher training, we asked for anecdotal evidence, and this is what we came up with, and I'm proud to show it to you. It made me happy, even though we're not really there yet. But for the teachers there reported to us that 147 of their students have enrolled or been accepted to post-secondary aviation programs. I think that's remarkable. I think we're, again, talking probably about a very small number of these 149 schools. 64 have passed their private pilot written. 59 have passed the Part 107 commercial drone certification. 61 students have begun flight training, and 19 students have completely finished their private pilot certification. That's early data. That's data that will continue to grow, and I think we will, within 2 or 3 years, have made a huge impact on this pathway moving to workforce. It just takes we want a magic bullet. We want to hand them all some curriculum and say, okay, now you go work here, here, and here. It's a 5-year, well, it's longer than 5 years if they go to post-secondary. So these are early numbers, but I wanted you to know that we are working on that, and we are trying to track it. It's not easy, because where does the high school student go after he or she leaves? It's hard to always know that, but we will continue to work that so that you'll know what kind of results we're having. I'll be happy to stand for any questions.
Thank you, Paula.
Thank you.
Next order of business is item 14, 2026 sponsorships and memberships consent docket. Sandra, you're recognized.
Good morning, Commissioners. This is the end of the year, and we get approvals from you for our partnerships, so I will go through these quickly. If you have any questions or you would like to bring them out as individual items, I'm happy. The Commission is happy to do that. So Tulsa Tech Maintenance Team is seeking approval of a $5,000 sponsorship for the students of Tulsa Tech Aviation Academy Maintenance Team to travel and compete in the 2026 Aerospace Maintenance Competition at the MRO Americas Conference in Orlando. We have previously supported this, and I have watched their team, and it's an incredible thing to see. Item B is the Oklahoma Airport Operators Association. It's our annual membership for $6,500. Select Oklahoma, this is our annual membership for $2,500. And then Aero Oklahoma Day, we are seeking approval for up to $10,000 for sponsorships. And the portion that the agency pays for Aero Oklahoma is for infrastructure, whether it be audiovisual systems or things like that. So that is what that seed money is for, and I would yield for questions.
Sandra?
Yes, ma'am.
On the Tulsa Tech Maintenance Team, do we have other similar organizations that would be coming to us for sponsorships, or how do we?
I think Tulsa Tech is unique, and Paula could probably speak to this, or Director Artis. We've been working with them a very long time. They have a really robust A&P mechanic program there, and so I think this started probably long ago, maybe even that friendship has developed even with Director Byrd. So Director Arties, do you want to speak to this?
I know in the past we've had other teams from Oklahoma that have tried to go to the MRO competition. I think at one time there was a Metro Tech team that would go, but I believe right now the only one that regularly goes to the MRO competition is the Tulsa Tech A&P team.
So then we could defend our ability
Right,
to
yeah.
support
And,
that.
and I mean, honestly, we would, and I say we would love to present to you all to sponsor other teams that would want to go. It's a very expensive proposition to take a group of students and compete in, a foreign town, stay, for 4 or 5 nights in a hotel, fly them down there, have the maintenance supervisors and sponsors from their education team. So it's an expensive proposition for them to go to that kind of a competition. And I think that's why a lot of people just don't have the financial resources to do it. But if a Metro Tech, if a Mid-Del, well, I guess Mid-Del's not full A&P, but if a Mid-Del, a Moore Norman, Southern Tech Canadian Valley wants to do it, I think we would consider it. But right now, Tulsa Tech, I believe, is the only one that attends regularly.
Thanks.
Do we have a motion to approve item 14?
I so move.
We have a motion, a second. Is there any further discussion? Call the roll, please.
Commissioner Phillips,
Aye.
Commissioner Potter,
Aye.
Commissioner Ritz,
Aye.
Chairman Rainey,
Aye.
Commissioner Putnam,
Aye.
Commissioner Hunter,
Aye.
Commissioner Campbell,
Aye.
Commissioner Siegfried.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you, Sandra. Next order of business is item 15, partnerships with the Oklahoma Department of Commerce for 2026 conferences and trade shows consent docket. Sandra, please continue.
Thank you, Chairman Rainey. This is what we bring to you every year during this time. This is the forecasted trade shows that we will be partnering with the Oklahoma Department of Commerce with, and I will just go over these briefly with you for your consideration. MRO Americas for $5,000. This is AUVSI Exponential, which Doug Wood from our department will be serving on panels there, is $5,000. Farnborough Air Show is $10,000. And the EAA Air Venture at Oshkosh is at $7,500. I would yield for questions.
Oh, you forgot one.
Oh, I did?
E.
Oh, E. There we go. Okay. NBAA base in October, and that is for $5,000. I yield for questions.
Mr. Chairman, interesting, previously, we just approved $5,000 for Tulsa Tech for MRO conference, and then Commerce is having a booth there. Are they connected in any way, or are they done as totally separate events?
There is an aviation caravan that goes to MRO Americas from Career Tech, from the Department of Commerce, from the Department of Aerospace and Aeronautics, and there is an Oklahoma pavilion. It's a very large show, and many facets of Oklahoma aviation are represented there. So this partnership that we're partnering with Commerce is for the actual Oklahoma booth.
Okay,
Yes, sir.
No real true connection there.
Right.
Other than the students will come by the booth, we'll go watch
Right.
the students, we'll take some photographs, we cheer them on, but there's no actual connection there.
yeah, got it, that's good, thanks. And the other question I had is Farnborough and the EEA are the same week. How do we function with that?
The duties are separated, and Director Arties is determining who is going to go where, but it's staffed from Nick Young, leads our contingent to Oshkosh, and
Okay.
so he kind of supervises that, and then Director Arties staffs the Farnborough Air Show.
So we do both, we just
Yes,
split
sir.
our staff, and then Commerce basically does the same thing, or they, being
I
at
think
both
Commerce
parts?
has a small team, but they have a larger team that goes to the Farnborough Air Show from their international team, but their ACES team also represents both shows.
We haven't figured out cloning yet, but we're close. We're very close. We're gonna work on that between now and July. But typically, when we're in Farnborough, it's been the same time the last two cycles. We've begged them not to do it, but for some reason, EA and Farnborough can't get together and get off cycle. So what I will do and what Sandra will do is we'll go to Farnborough Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, hop on a flight Thursday, and show up at Oshkosh and do Oshkosh Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
Oh, wow, okay.
And that's what I've done the last couple of times. And so We'll have our early week crew led by Nick and a few others that will set up and run the early week crew, and Commerce may have one person there, they may not. And then late week, we'll have maybe one Commerce person there. They'll do the same thing as us potentially.
So as I was looking at the websites for both of these, I think on the EEA one, we actually have an Oklahoma Day or something, a luncheon that we sponsor.
It's Friday.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Do we do the same thing at Farnborough? Do we have or is this the booth there?
We have a
Breakfast.
breakfast at
Yeah.
Farnborough, the Sunday breakfast. It's an industry breakfast.
Okay.
And that's the opportunity. Usually the governor will highlight it. In years past, Senator Inhofe would come when he was in the Senate. We've had Senator Mullen show up once to the breakfast, and Congresswoman Bice has been to the breakfast. But yes, typically every trade show will have some major kind of coalescing event, whether it's a breakfast, a lunch, a reception, that kind of a thing.
Good.
And so, yeah, so Sunday at Farnborough would come. I think Commissioner Rainey and Commissioner Phillips were at the Paris breakfast a couple of years ago. Certainly would encourage anybody to attend either the breakfast or the show if you would so desire.
It sounds like the investment gets good return. That's what I was hoping for, is that we're getting a good bang for the money we invest. Thank you.
I yield for other questions.
Commissioner, may I have a question? Now that OSIDA has been merged into ODAA, is there a consideration for the space symposium?
Yes, I think a large consideration has been made. I don't know if that comes through the OSIDA budget, sir.
Thank you for the question, Commissioner. At, I believe it was the October meeting, maybe going back as far as August, I'll have to go back and check the minutes. But the OSIDA board approved the contingency to go to space. And we're actually now not only go to the space symposium, but also join the Space Foundation as a member.
Very good.
So,
Thank you.
But yeah, I think that was at either the October or the August meetings. I'll go back and find where we approved that. Essentially, you know, if you looked at the slate of areas we went to on ODA last December, we had VAI and space on here as ODA. Commerce isn't going to VAI this next year, and because OSIDA is now merged with ODA and OSIDA's got space, ODA doesn't need to do space. And so that's where the combination goes, and you'll likely see where OSIDA isn't on Farnborough. It's because ODA is representing Farnborough. Of course, you know, myself and Craig and Sandra will be at Farnborough representing both ODA and the OSIDA mission.
Thank you.
Okay, do we have a motion to approve item 15?
Move approval.
We have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second, is there any discussion? Call the roll, please.
Commissioner Phillips?
Aye.
Commissioner Potter?
Aye.
Commissioner Ritz?
Aye.
Chairman Rainey?
Aye.
Commissioner Putnam?
Aye.
Commissioner Hunter?
Aye.
Commissioner Campbell?
Aye.
Commissioner Siegfried?
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you, Sandra.
Thank you, commissioners. It went better this year than last year, so thanks. I think Paula helped.
Very good. Next order of business is item 16, review of airspace conferences and trade shows. Director, you're recognized.
Sorry for the tickle in the throat. Item number 16, NBAA. Myself and Sandra and Chris Wadsworth were there attending and representing Oklahoma. We had Senator Yeck with us at the show. Cameron, do we have any other representatives or senators? I think it was just Senator Yeck. And we tried our best to wear him out, but he kept up with us throughout the week, or a couple days that he was there. I think he was there actually the whole week. Really opened up his eyes to a new subset of aviation, that being business aviation. Commissioner Rainey was there for a couple of days. I don't know if we had any other commissioners that attended. Commissioner Siegfried, does NORDAM participate in NBAA?
Yes, I do.
Okay. Of course, we have a lot of Oklahoma companies, NORDAM, Lufthansa, Mint Turbines, CTS, several different companies throughout Oklahoma that attend. Had about a dozen, maybe it was less than that, I think it was 9 to 10 business meetings set up throughout the week. Of course, this was also a double duty. Commerce was at MRO Europe, so we only had one Commerce member participating at NBA this year. So it was kind of ODA running the show. Of course, Aldwin was there from Commerce, and he represented well. And really had a great time. Steve Hadley, if you don't know Steve Hadley, he's our regional rep for NBA, also is the director of all the regional reps throughout the country. Treats us well, rolls out the red carpet for us, introduces us to people that we never would have had the opportunity to introduce to just on our own. Takes us to all kinds of VIP events, gets us front row seats. Who was the country singer that was the headliner? Dierks Bentley was the headliner this year, and I forget which Walton son it was. Commissioner Hunter, you might be able to name off a name and it would sound familiar. What? Yeah, he's the aviator, right? Rob was there and received the big NBA advocacy award for what he's doing in Arkansas, and it was a great show. And then moving on to the Oklahoma Aerospace Forum, which is the event hosted by our friends at the Department of Commerce ACES program. One-day event held at the Omni, talking about the various aerospace activities, the trends, the challenges, and how we can solve those in Oklahoma, and certainly looking forward to seeing some of the results of that one-day event. There's a lot of energy surrounding it. Of course, it's always good to get together with our fellow aerospace friends. I think Commissioner Siegfried was there. So yeah, great opportunity there for our 2 events and trade shows that have happened since our October meeting.
Thank you, Grayson. Next is item 17, review of aerospace events and activities. Director, please continue.
We have been pounding the pavement, doing ribbon cuttings and groundbreakings since our October meeting. We've had four major activities. Ardmore Terminal groundbreaking, great opportunity to go down to our Ardmore downtown friends. They're getting a brand new terminal. Item B, you see there in the picture, that was the dedication of the McAllister Terminal. Probably one of the longest terminal builds we've ever been a part of, but I know they were great to see it completed. It's unfortunate the airport manager that started the project decided to turn down his great office space that he was going to be getting and heading back to Ardmore, and so he turned it over to a new airport manager who loves the office space and the great view, and it's just a great terminal building for those of you that have been there. That's where Paula had her air evangelism picture taken, was at the McAllister Terminal building. We went out to our friends in the Panhandle. I know former Commissioner Mike Ray was proud of us, says, don't forget, the Panhandle is still a part of the great state of Oklahoma. For those of you who remember Commissioner Mike Ray, we were out there celebrating the Hooker fuel system and dedicating the new 100 low lead and Jet A tanks out there at the Hooker Municipal Airport. And then, of course, while we were out in the Panhandle, we went ahead and broke ground on the new Guyman hangar, and very proud that the Guyman schools, the Guyman Aviation Program, brought maybe 24 students out to commemorate and celebrate this moment for the Guyman Airport. So great opportunity there in November. It was actually, I think I broke a sweat. It was hot in November in the Panhandle. It was unusual and calm. I got off the airplane and I wasn't blown over in Guyman. I've never had that happen before out there. So very interesting. Anyway, great opportunity. Obviously, we have some more events, one coming up next week, which I'm sure Sandra will tell you about in the next item.
Thank you, Director. Next order of business is item 18, preview of upcoming aviation and aerospace events. Sandra, you recognize.
Thank you, Commissioners. So in Elk City, we have another terminal dedication, and that will be on the 17th. If you would like to attend, just let me know, and we'll make sure that you have that information. We are also preparing for Oklahoma Women in Aviation and Aerospace Day, which was actually yesterday in state statute, December 9th, which is on the birth date of Pearl Carter Scott, who learned to fly with Wiley Post on the fields of Marlow, Oklahoma. Senate Bill 230 in 2017 created the law, and we were first in the nation to do so. And this is our 9th annual event, and we are excited to celebrate the life of Amelia Mary Earhart. And our keynote speaker is Amelia Rose Earhart, who recently flew around the world in a Pilatus. So I know some of you are going to be there with us that day on Friday. And our event has had some headwinds and I would say severe turbulence, but it's going well. And we really want to thank our partners with the Oklahoma City Airport Trust. Jeff Mulder has been incredible and has gotten us to yes on every problem that has been presented. J.E. Dunn has turned over the hangar to us for a few days so we can build out the event. And AAR is always really good partners to us. I think Commissioner Hunter, we're going to have a thing at his house tomorrow night welcoming Amelia Rose Earhart, and Colonel Dawn Zoldi is our celebrity MC. She's kind of the queen of UAS. She's an attorney and she is tough. So we're excited to have that. And Paul is going to have 500 kids in the student experience. Rose State College is supporting us with that, and Oklahoma Airport Operators Association is with us for our VIP reception at the 99s Museum. I really encourage you guys to attend. Regrettably, it is sold out, and so there are no more public tickets, but I'd probably get you guys in if you need something. So thank you so much. Appreciate the support.
Thanks, Sanders. Next order of business is item 19, Director's Report. Grayson, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a couple of items here that we haven't already addressed throughout the rest of the agenda. First, we met with the City of Stillwater on October 20th to talk to them about some of the ongoing projects they have, some of the financial challenges that they're having as a community, and also their commercial air service. As you know, that was started about 10 years ago now, almost 10 years ago, and we are trying to figure out a way to ensure that both the city and the university can partner together to help support some of the minimum revenue guarantees. As you know, the 50-seaters are going away, and they've upgraded to the CRJ 700 series out there, and so that has changed their seat filling capability. So that means their MRG is getting used more frequently because they're not able to fill as many seats, or they're not able to get the airplane as full in the 70-seater compared to the 50-seater. And so that's been a bit of a struggle for the city, and we're trying to figure out ways to help them and have them partner with the university and the new leadership there at the university. So it's a good conversation. We want to see Stillwater continue their commercial air service for the long haul. And then lastly, Department of Commerce invited me on a trip to Germany to discuss apprenticeships. So as you know, the German apprenticeship model is second to none. One of the challenges that Oklahoma aerospace businesses have had is how can we support workforce? You've heard it from Paula, you've heard it from others. And so Commerce organized several state agency leaders, Commerce itself, Oklahoma Employment Security Commission, the Director of Career Tech, our Assistant or Deputy Secretary of Energy and Environment, as well as several industry partners that were there. And we mostly hit aerospace companies, visited Airbus, visited Lufthansa, Technique in Hamburg. We also visited Uniper and a few other energy companies, as well as a aluminum company, a subsidiary of the aluminum company that's coming here to Northeast Oklahoma, and saw how the German apprenticeship model works. And we're trying to bring that back to Oklahoma. I know it's going to be a change. It's going to be a culture change for Oklahoma businesses, for Oklahoma education. But after spending a week there and seeing how successful Germany is, I hope that we can bring just a piece of that back to Oklahoma. Because I think if we can get our companies and our educators to adopt the German apprenticeship model, even in small doses, I think it will do a lion's share, not just for workforce, but truly change what our young people's success can be long term. So I'm trying to help as best we can as an agency on the apprenticeship and internship front. And I think at the end of the day, it will be better for Oklahoma, particularly Lufthansa and Tulsa, as they try and bring their own apprenticeship model from Germany over to the Tulsa location. So certainly exciting opportunities there. That's the last two things that I have for you as a director that have happened since our October meeting.
Thank you, Director. Now we have item 20, concluding remarks. Are there any additional comments from staff or commissioners? Okay, hearing none. Next item, item 21, announcement of next meeting. Our next scheduled meeting will be at 9 a.m. on Wednesday, January 21st, 2026, here in the first floor conference room at the Oklahoma Department of Transportation. Moving to item 2020, Director, is there any new business?
No, sir.
There is no new business. I move to adjournment. Item 23, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Got a motion, is there a second? I declare this meeting adjourned.